Welcome to official Catchup. It's Ben here, and I'm joined by Chris, as always. How you doing, Chris?
Good. We never actually done anything for the 100th episode. I think it was just me and you, and we just rolled it out and talked about it. I guess the positive thing was that we were talking about football again rather than any negative stuff. But
bureaucracy and politics. Yeah, it was. I'll tell you why I know if it was the 103rd episode, because I went on to the episode, last week's episode, to see what I was wearing. Because I had a funny feeling I was wearing the same T-shirt. So I was like, I don't want people to think I'm pure clap bag and I'm just wearing the same T-shirt every single week. So I was like, I need to check in case I had the same one. I had a black T-shirt on, but it wasn't the same one, so it's fine. So I was like, it's fine, because I would have went away and got changed if it had been the same T-shirt, but it wasn't. So it's cool.
To be fair, the way they're listed, we've probably done over 200 odd episodes. But it depends what it is that I class it as an episode. So technically, we have our chats with like players and managers, and that probably doesn't count as an actual episode.
Actual episodes where we chat, or it's been me, you, Moz, or me, you, Moz, and Sean. And then it's always been that's the episode, and anything else is just a wee bit extra to add to the old bit of content. But with plenty of football that happened at the weekend. We had the Lowland League, we had the Scottish Cup, we had the Scottish Junior Cup. I think we had some West Scotland games, East Scotland games, Strathclyde Demolition Cup games, East of Scotland Cup games as well. All sorts of stuff going on. But we'll start with the Lowland League, as we always do. We'll go through the games. Berwick Rangers lost 1-0 to Cali Braves. Chris, you called it. You said you thought the Cali Braves would get the result there.
Oh, it's an awkward one, eh? How many times did I say the word mentality when I talked about Berwick last week? Honestly, I was watching it back and I was like, I'm saying mentality so much. But yeah, from what I've heard, poor performance from Berwick. Braves, we're showing favouritism here, maybe. We've talked about them every week. Usually we kind of, change the tone or try and cover other teams. But now the Braves are doing well. Now up to third. Momentum, really. Berwick, on the other hand, I think it just applies what I said last week about mentality. From what I've heard, they weren't really interested. You've got to have that bit of belief about you that you're going out. You have momentum. We'll probably talk about Broomhill. Obviously, we kind of questioned them last week, and they've came back out firing and got a result at the weekend. Berwick haven't done that. In fairness, they're probably, we probably rate Braves higher than Gala, who Broomhill played, but. Aye, it's another devastating loss for Berwick. In fairness, they have had injuries, as have Gala, but every team has injuries, don't they? And they still seem to turn up. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Berwick now. In a sense, I'm not saying that they're way down there in terms of where I think they'll be, but it's not looking great at the moment. And fair enough, again, the Braves, they had two players in the team of the month. Zach Butterworth, who seems to be doing amazing on the right. Obviously, Mark Kelly, we talk enough about him, to be honest. Probably too much, but he's doing fantastic. And the Braves as a whole, fantastically well. Very surprised. I think we kind of said Boness were a bit of a surprise package, but Braves, I think, are kind of overtaking them as one to watch this season in terms of guess that word dark horse. The original dark horse for me was Berwick Rangers, but Braves are definitely on fire.
Berwick's defence are terrified. Sorry, that was a pure pun, but I actually said it was 1-0. It was actually 2-0. I was reading a graphic incorrectly. It was the half-time results here, so I was doing Cali Braves had the service, but I said it was only 1-0. It was actually 2-0, so apologies to them. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Cali Braves started the season brilliantly, which we never thought I think would have happened. Certainly I didn't. Did I think Berwick were going to challenge or be up there? Probably not either. Did I think they were going to be as low as they are at the moment in the league? I don't think so. I think they'll probably finish mid-table. We probably have another one of those seasons where they're kind of trying to build on kind of what they've been doing, and obviously they've been trying to kind of regroup from getting relegated, and they're still kind of going through that. I know we've talked to like guys like Dave before and listened to what they were doing at Berwick, and I think they'll eventually come good, but this is not the season for them as far as I'm concerned. They're not going to get down, they're not going to win the league, they're just going to have a very, very kind of middle fair to middling season, and I know they get put out one of the cups already, and they mentioned about kind of focusing on the league. But more and more I think about that, the worse that gets, because I don't think they're going to do anything in the league. So maybe the cup competitions are the ones for them, and they should really maybe think about those and try and go on a run and try and maybe grab a bit of silverware. But obviously it's too late in terms of the East of Scotland Cup that they're in, and they only have the South Challenge Cup really to try and get something from. So yeah, I don't know where Berwick go from here, but yeah, fair play to Cali Braves. It's great to see them up there sitting third now, just behind Rangers B and EK. But yeah, absolutely brilliant for them, and delighted to see them, because, as I said before, I like what they do as a club and what they're all about. So delighted again to say well, I'm sure they'll kick on.
How many seasons is it going to be for Berwick Glow? We use the word transition. I mean, transition for me is maybe 1-2 seasons. They've been in the league long enough. Yeah, I just don't understand that. Look, they've got really good players at Berwick. They have obviously winners in that. You know, Tam Scobie, Jamie Stevenson. Obviously himself, Stuart Malcolm, has won the league with East Kilbride. Just don't understand how they're not doing better. We can talk about injuries and whatnot, but yeah, they're a team right away that I would say that should be doing better, and they're not. And I don't know what has to change there, if anything. You know, obviously we're not calling for anyone's heads in terms of players or managers or that, but yeah, to me it's not good enough. You know, we can talk about it's another transitional season. It's just not good enough. It gets to the point where we're using the words transition and we're looking at teams and thinking, well, it's been 3-4 years. I mean, how long do you have to be in a league for it not to be a transitional season?
One step forward for 2 steps back kind of situation for Berwick. Maybe they sort some stuff off the park and you think, right, this will be then they'll kick on, but in actual fact they take a step back, whereas they've got trying to find that balance, and maybe it's just one of those ones where it's going to take them a bit longer to do that rebuild and get it right on and off the park to get back to where they want to be. For me, I would never have said that Berwick, even before they got relegated, were a good league side. They were always protected and kind of helped out by the lack of promotion relegation, and now that's obviously happened to them. Maybe they've just found the level, to be brutally honest. They maybe just found the level within the Lowland League is probably where they're meant to be.
They're destined to be,
yeah. That's not to be disrespectful or anything like that, but maybe we've talked about the pyramid to death in this podcast, and we know those teams below the Lowland League and in the Lowland League who are better than the Lowland League, certainly, and have aspirations to be up there, and there's no reason why they can't be. And now that the pyramid's in place, it's not just Berwick. I mean, there's going to be teams in League 2 and probably League 1 as well at some point that are going to drop down and probably find themselves in the Lowland League or in Tier 6 at some point. So maybe that's just what it's going to be for Berwick. And they might get out now and again, but they might get relegated. Maybe one of those teams that can maybe yo-yos between, but who knows? Certainly, I don't think there's going to be a massive improvement from Berwick in the near future anyway. Next game then, Bowness United lost 2-0 to Trinent. Trinent's manager, Callum Elliott, quit the club almost inexplicably during the week, Chris. Strange departure there.
Yeah, he had talked about the sort of need for urgency and whatnot like a few days earlier, so unless it was at the weekend, I'm not 100% sure, but from what I gather, he feels that he's taking the club as far as he can, which I don't really understand that, because Trinent have kind of been a wee bit going under the radar. I mean, they're still, I mean, I didn't think they would win the league coming into the Lowland League and be promoted, but they are, quite high up there. They still have a chance. I mean, I know East Kilbride are firing, obviously Rangers B are firing, but I do find that a wee bit strange that Callum Elliott wasn't really up for the fight. No offence to him, but that's what it seemed to me why he resigned, because he didn't feel like he could take the club further. But yeah, that is a weird one for me. The only other thing is, I thought maybe at the time Callum might have had another job lined up higher up. I mean, Trinent, as I say, they went under the radar. Obviously, a decent win 2-0 against against Bonesu. Another difficult one for them, obviously coming off the defeat to East Kilbride. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, that Callum Elliott, isn't it? I don't have anyone in mind in who's going to replace him. So the next appointment will be interesting. But anyone that takes the Trinent job will have a ready-made squad. I still believe maybe top 6, top 4. Well, probably more top 6 from my perspective. But yeah, very surprising, that one, Ben.
I certainly won't say the name that was suggested in the group chat last night, who might take over at Trinent, to save any embarrassment for. Was it you or Moza? I can't remember who said it.
That was just an idea I threw out.
We'll not
that was just an idea I threw out.
We'll not say the name to protect Chris's reputation, but Chris was suggesting a manager that they could potentially be interested in the job, and I'm not going to lie. When I read the message from Chris, I just laughed.
Wait. Is he out of a job at the moment? Yes,
absolutely.
Has he kind of?
Do we want to say it? Do we want to say it?
Just say it if you want.
So Chris said, but what about Kevin Thompson for the Trinent job? Now, Kevin Thompson has been linked the Motherwell job only 3 weeks ago, and is working on BT Sport, Rangers TV, and all that kind of stuff. I don't see him going to Trinent, Chris.
Well, that's fair. But at the end of the day, is he in a job at the moment? No,
he's not. Yeah, correct.
I know he's linked with, I think, what was it, before Raith Rovers and whatnot. But just sign a deal if he wants to get into management, and there's no jobs going available. Trent would be a good sort of stepping stone, just under the agreement that I can leave when a bigger club comes asking. We've seen managers do that before previously, where they're high profile names. All right, I knew another club's quite fancies it, but a lot of people are forgetting Trinent are well backed. They're not probably. I'm not sure about the same levels as Kelty or anything like that, but they are well backed. They're a solid team. Someone like a Kevin Thompson, I think, would do good for them. If it's out of the, a lot of, who was it? Mozart brought up Rangers TV. Oh, he has his gig on Rangers TV. He was doing that when he was at Kelty, so who knows? It was just a night. As I say, I don't think I've got many other names in the hat that I can think of at the top of my head who are available. He was one of them. So yeah, say what you want about that. I just I threw it out there. Might be wrong, of course. Yeah, as you say, probably has higher aspirations, as I think Callum Elliott probably does now. Hence why he left. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
I know we're just joking, but I think whoever does go into that job has, you say, got a good squad and got a good opportunity there to take a team that, as you say, well backed, so can probably kick on and hopefully probably has aspirations to go through the league. The thing I did find strange that with Trinent is they announced a bit of they trailed a bit of exciting news last night. It was like, stay tuned for news at 7:00, and they announced their vice captain
Sean Murphy,
who signed I think a 3-year deal or something like that, and I found that very strange. I think, and for two reasons. I expected bigger news, to be quite honest, at 7:00 on a Saturday night. I was fully expecting a manager to be announced at 7:00 on Saturday night, and then secondly, I find it really odd that a player, even if he is the vice captain, is getting a new deal just now. It's certainly a multi-year deal without a manager, but I find that odd, certainly. And the manager might have his own ideas, his own plans for the squad. They might not rate that player, but he's not going to be stuck by a guy. I'm not saying that Murphy's a bad player or anything like that. I don't know him at all, but certainly find it a wee bit weird that the committee or the board at Trinent are handing out deals to players at this point in time, while in a period of, we use that word again, transition between managers. But find that a little bit odd, I must admit.
It was a strange one, given the timing of everything, but it's maybe big news to the Belters fans. So, yeah, I did find that a bit odd as well, because I was expecting a new manager, which would have been a quick turnaround, obviously.
Right, next game then, Celtic B versus Dalbeat Stars, a 5-0 win for Celtic B. They kicked off at 12 p.m. lunchtime kickoff for Celtic B. It must be a pitch clash, I presume. That'd be an early kickoff.
I'm not actually sure, to be honest. I never sort of looked into that, but that would have been a hard one for the Dalbeat boys, obviously travelling travelling through. But I watched the highlights, the Celtic highlights, and all the boys looked class. Obviously, bossing Law and the team of the month with Matthew Anderson too. So I think he took his chances really well for a defender. He was up really high, which probably doesn't really look good on the Dalbeattie side, obviously, if the Celtic defenders are really high up in the pitch, 18-yard line and taking shots. I think one of them was maybe at a set play, but yeah, it's a tough one. We've not really talked about Celtic the last few weeks, but they're firing really well, and Dalbeattie, not seen much from them, have we yet, Ben? Still trying,
yeah, you're right. Still trying to find their way in. Coming up against a team like Celtic B, they probably weren't expecting much. So, just one of those ones, dust himself down, get going again, try and get points. I think obviously what Dalbeattie will be trying to do, just get points by any means necessary at this point in time. So, routine win for Celtic B, 5-0. I'm just seeing my phone there, and Celtic first team have just won 9-0 against Dundee United. Let's just say for a second, that's mental.
Yeah, it was 7 when we first started, I think.
Oh, was it right? Well, I left it at 5, so there's been 4 goals since then, but fair play to Celtic. The Celtic be also getting the points. Next game then, Civil Service Straws 4, Gretna 2008 1. Again, for me, that's a routine win for Civil Service Straws. I don't expect much from Gretna at this point. I've said that all along. I don't think they'll be great, and despite the one result they did have, which is a great result for them a few weeks ago, that I've not seen anything different from Gretna, and I think they'll just be that team near the bottom. They're probably very, very fortunate at this point in time that Dalbeattie are where they are and the situation they're in, because you're looking at it saying probably Dalbeattie are the team that goes down based on their performances, but yeah, pretty routine, as I say.
I might see Gretna next week. They come up against Kenbeef. I'm thinking with Old Firm games next week, obviously, so I'll be watching that. Have a half hour or whatever to get to the Kenbeef game. So I hopefully it's not another wasted tenor of poor quality football like it was when they played Dalbeattie Star Kenbeef. But I'll wait and see. I still have higher hopes than you with Gretna. They were missing a few players last week. Jonathan said obviously 5 or 6 key players, but it's Civil at Christy Gillis Park. Civil are, to me, a different team. They really make it hard for anyone going there. Alu Faye, the big man, obviously doing the business again as he did in the cup as well. So I'll see how I feel next Saturday if I'm up for Kenbeef Gretna.
Which means you're not going to go to Hilla Beef versus Irvine Meadow? Catchup favourites to Irvine Meadow?
Well, that'll be I think that'll be an earlier kickoff, so it really depends on what I'm doing next Saturday. I don't know if I can watch an Old Firm at a pub, to be honest. It's a bit like the North London Derby. I can't be in other people's companies when I'm watching these games, so just the way I am. But I'll wait and see because I do fancy that game as well. Obviously, we'll get to it, but they went to a replay in the Scottish Cup. So yeah, this is why I'm quite smart though, because I'll have a shave, I'll get a haircut. None of the Meda crowd can give me a stick, so not recognise me. So a bit of a chameleon.
You'll be associated with myself, so you'll be all right. You'll be safe. That's fine. I'll definitely not be there because I've got a fucking replay to go through as well. So we'll get on it, I'm sure, at some point in this podcast. Next game then, it was a 6-0 win for Cumbernauld Colts away to Edinburgh Uni. Brilliant result for Cumbernauld Colts. Edinburgh Uni are what they are again. Another one of these teams at the bottom, struggling away. But great result, and great to see Cumbernauld Colts scoring a load of goals and keeping the clean sheet.
Yeah, 3 on the trot, 3 wins on the trot for the Colts. Delighted about that because I often have a soft spot for them. Stephen O'Neill, obviously in the team of the month, well deserved. Had a lot of injuries last season. I think Sean Winter was covering him as captain and the sort of main man in midfield, but he's hopefully back. And Cole McIntyre, who we've mentioned, kind of early doors, was in amongst the goals as well. So yeah, fantastic result. I'm good. I'm happy. It's now sort of, I don't know what the word would be, because to be fair, they've played teams that are kind of sort of at the lower level, but 3 wins on the trot there's no reason that can't be 4, 5, 6 if everything goes their way. The Colts have a good team, and obviously David Proctor knows this level really well, knows higher up really well. He's a very experienced. He was an experienced player, probably one of the star players in the Lowland League throughout the years, and obviously his experience in the Scottish game. I often thought when he came on board that would just push the Colts, and hopefully it does. Last season they had a really strange one because I think they played well in parts, but maybe it just didn't come off for them. Obviously, Sean Winter, he was fantastic for them, but for whatever reason, the results never came. I think we're maybe seeing that the results are actually panning out for them this season, hopefully. And obviously, I think it's either next month. I think it is next month they play their main rivals, Open Goal, as well. So that'll be an interesting midweek game. I think it is at Broadwood. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Their main rivals, I love that. Like some sort of mad rivalry between Cumbernauld Colts.
It's getting that way, to be fair.
I know there's like a bit of a back and forth because they're obviously playing at the same ground and stuff like that. But it's just a great result for me for Cumbernauld Colts to get the win, and so convincingly. But don't really know what we expect from Edinburgh. I guess one of these teams is bottom of the table, probably not going to get relegated, because I think the two teams at the bottom of the league just now are so poor that they probably will go. Between Cowdenbeath and Dalbeattie for me for the relegation spot. I know I've said about Gretna in the past, and yeah, I think they'll still be right below. They'll be down there, but it's going to be just another kind of muddling season for Edinburgh Uni, certainly, and who knows what will happen there. Right, moving on now, we mentioned the team with the rivalry between Cumbernauld Colts. It was Open Goal Broomhill 5, Gallagh Dean Rovers 1. A bit of a bounce back there for Open Goal. Mazza will be delighted. I think he was too ill to make the game on Saturday, so maybe he's going to get sindayed and cast away by the Broomhill lot. Seems how they managed to get a result when he wasn't there.
Yeah, I think there was something going about because I was planning on getting to a game yesterday too, but I was feeling a bit under the weather, so maybe there was something going about. But exactly what they needed after the cup result. I did watch the Open Goal Broomhill podcast. Funny enough, I watched like half an hour of it. It was all quite pally and having a laugh and stuff like that. But Derek Ferguson's a guy I respect massively in the Scottish game. I've never met the guy, but he always seems to be really good knowledge-wise from what I've seen of him before. And I think the strange one about that is they didn't come across as they were taking it that seriously when they got beat. I don't know if you watched the episode, but it was all kind of having a laugh. And I think that's a good thing. You kind of have to have that as well. But I don't know, I'd probably be a bit more serious having lost that game. But at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. They beat Gallagh 5-1. They bounced back anyway, regardless of the feeling of how they should have played that. But of course, Ryan Tierney, it was good to see him in amongst the scoring. I don't think he's really been getting too many games that I've noticed.
A few games,
yeah. So and obviously, guess we have to mention it, Ben. Obviously, Paul Slaney made his debut after 6 years of not playing. I actually thought it was longer than 6 years, his last competitive game, but apparently 6 years. So that's another interesting wee note of that game. In fairness to Gallagher, I've mentioned it before, they've not had their full lineup so far this season because of suspensions and injuries and whatnot. But I obviously made the comment last week that I do feel Gallagher and Broomhill kind of play similarly. They try and play kind of good football, and it's maybe not worked out for them. So it was probably a mesh of similar styles in that game. So it probably helped Broomhill, or certainly I feel it might have helped Broomhill because they try and play the similar way rather than someone that's a wee bit different.
I think from what I kind of read, it sounds like Broomhill went 2 up top and managed to get 5 goals. So I think maybe that was kind of justified, and I guess it just shows that Cy Ferry manages to actually forgo his fancy playing from the back football style that he's desperate to play, and because obviously he wants to be one of these managers who plays the football the right way and all this kind of new age football, which is fine. I mean, if that's what you want to do, but if you don't have the players to play it, we said it, I think, a couple of weeks back, if you don't have the players to play it, you can't play that system. And he's obviously decided to make that change, and it's reaped his rewards in terms of scoring 5, and I think sounds like he brought Ryan Tierney back in the side. He's managed to get 2. Evan Malley's come back in, got a goal as well. The guys that were kind of around last year as well. So the guys that were good Lowland League players and probably found themselves kind of out the squad a bit because of the new manager and the new setup and the guys who were coming in. So delighted for both those players certainly to get the goals. Great win. You mentioned Paul Slane. Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant for him to get back as an individual and to play after so long being out, and it just shows you the kind of hard work that he has put in. Because I think a lot of time you're when you watch the podcast, to me, I don't always feel like I'm sure that they're actually being serious and that was ever going to happen and things like that. And it just felt maybe like, are they kind of taking the piss out of that a bit and having that as part of the whole kind of camaraderie of the podcast and kind of the back. Because obviously we all do in podcasts, we have your own kind of in jokes and kind of different nuances that people who watch regularly understand, and only them will understand. And I kind of started to wonder, is that what that was? And it's just something that, but I said, great to see him back. He got 10 minutes. I think he played in a friendly a few weeks ago as well. So he seems to be doing all the right things, and he's got himself back into a state to be able to play in the Lowland League, which is great for him. So fair play. Next game then we're going to will be Spartans 2, East Kilbride 3, another cracking win for East Kilbride. They left it late, goal from Ronan Hughes, I think it was in the last 2 minutes or something like that. He banged one in just to grab the win. So East Kilbride, as we said, they're doing brilliant, and I think I'm just happy they've started so well, because I think we mentioned it last week, they've always kind of sometimes struggled to get going, and it seems to be the reverse. So we just hope they've obviously got the pace to last the season, having started so strongly.
Yeah, it's always kind of close between Spartans and East Kilbride. They have that sort of competitive rivalry over the years, having been two of the most successful Lowland League teams. Still in the league, obviously. Other ones obviously have been promoted to the SPFL and whatnot, Edinburgh City, Kelty, Bonnyrigg. But Spartans, it looked like I watched the highlights just before we came on. I kind of mentioned obviously the fact that Spartans didn't score a lot from midfield, kind of proving me wrong again, because Rhys Armstrong was in amongst the scoring for Spartans. Now it seems like most of their goals are coming from midfield, so I don't know if what I've said, maybe Dougie Samuels took it literally. So he's getting more of his midfield going, but it's a fantastic result for East Kilbride in a tough game, another tough one. Six wins in the last 6, as I pointed out, in the form in the Lowland League, which is fantastic. They've only lost one game, obviously Rangers B at the start of the season. Spartans, I did read obviously that was one that they kind of wanted to turn up for. I think they did turn up. I think it's just a fact that they were up against an East Kilbride side that were clinical on the day. I think that was the difference, because Spartans played well as far as I'm aware, and they were in the game. They'll be disappointed to lose that. I think they're 10th in the league, which is not a great start, but I think it's misleading for Spartans in a sense, because they have played so many of the top teams. They'll have a run against maybe one of the sort of lower sides, and that will just boost them right up. So some of the teams, I think, certainly Spartans and possibly Civil as well, it's been a bit misleading for them, because they're playing the top teams early, or the other top teams early, I should say. So no worries really for Spartans, but East Kilbride are just running away with it at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, I think for us now it's a 2-horse race as far as we're concerned. It looks like it's between East Kilbride and Rangers B, and I think you said East Kilbride. I think I said one of the cope teams at the start of the season, and it's certainly looking like that as far as the form's going. And yeah, East Kilbride just obviously dug in and got the result. And fair credit to Spartans, they matched them for most of the match by the sounds of it, and certainly, well, were in it and could have probably got a point. And if it wasn't for a great finish from Ronan Hughes to get the win. So yeah, East Kilbride let's just say Edge, and obviously bringing in the manager when he did might have actually looked like a good move. They got him in at what was it, January last year, March last year was it?
Yeah.
When Chris Aiken got the second. We kind of wondered at that time was that the right thing to do, and we probably felt that Chris Aiken was justified to stay on and do the job, but Kev Rukovitz came in, and he obviously had that time to work with the players, March, April, May, and then get the full pre-season and start looking at players across the league. And he seems like he knows what he's doing. But he's a decent manager. He's obviously managed at higher levels in the Lowland League before now. And I think East Kilbride are the team. Still fancy Rangers B myself, but East Kilbride are the team to catch now.
He's not Kev's not. He's not got the best ghost impression. I don't know if you've seen that during the midweek. The lights went out on his interview. Yeah. So
we've all been there.
Not the greatest ghost impression, but tell you, I was going to make a really stupid comment about East Kilbride's attack being a bit scary, but no, I won't fall into that part. As you said, East Kilbride are top team at the moment. At Rangers B as well, obviously.
Mentioning Kev Rukovitz, I'd love to interview Kev Rukovitz. I've got a good story about Kev where I did my radio. We used to do my radio gig. It was a music show. I did at an old radio station, and Kev came down to the radio station because he was planning to be a singer-songwriter and release an album. So I've got some photographs. You're shocked, but that's a true story. So I was on a radio station called Urban BFM, which I spent probably 5 or 6 years on before I kind of got into this podcast and different podcasts I was doing, and also get involved in co-winning. So when I left co-winning, when I left the radio station, I joined co-winning Rangers. But before that, my show was a new music show, so it was all kind of unsigned, under the radar kind of bands that would come on the show, and I'd play that. It was on I think a Tuesday night maybe, and Irvine. It was done in essentially a cupboard in a community centre in Irvine, and we had connections with some PR companies and stuff like that. And I got an email one day saying, "Oh, I've got this singer-songwriter who wants to come on your show and wondered if you'd be up for an interview." And I was like, I was quite new at that point. So I was like, yeah, of course. And next thing you know, it's got the name. It was Kevin Rukovitz. And I'm like, he's a football player. Very confused, I was like, I wonder what that's about. So certainly, I think if you go on YouTube somewhere, there'll be an interview of me and Kev in this studio in Irvine. There's a picture certainly of me and Kev standing, and I'm about 10 stone lighter probably, I'd imagine, at that point, and 10 years younger at that certainly as well. So I would love to meet Kev again, do an interview on this podcast or something, and get a photo just to show the difference. He probably hasn't changed a day. He still looks great, but I certainly, as I say, 10 years older, much more facial hair, and probably much more weight added to the old figure at the time. But that's a true story, by the way. That isn't actually.
Here's one question for that though. Was he any good? Was he any good at singing? Was he?
I mean, he could. I mean, he was like, he did the guitar and the singer-songwriter thing, and yeah, decent enough. I think he wrote a song. I think the song was called "Time on Tick." I think was the song that he did, or he was trying to punt at that time. And he was definitely. I mean, I'm sure if you Google it, songwriter. I mean, Kev probably now hates me for this. If you listen to this podcast, he'll be like, "Don't bring that up because that was the past." And I'm now a serious football manager in the Lowland League, but certainly
you kept that quiet, mate. It's first.
I'm surprised I've not talked to that before.
Unless I've kind of missed it or something, but yeah, I don't remember hearing that before. Poor Kev, we're gonna. That's if I can find the link that is going on the catch-up later.
Definitely exists. I mean, because I remember the guy who used to help out the station was videoed the interview part of it. So the video interview or the video part of the interview exists for sure. And the song, I don't know if the songs will still exist, but I'll have the songs on my computer or on my computer somewhere for sure, because I know that I had them on the radio show and I produced the radio show. So
if that appears on the Catchup socials later,
might get
that'll be
banned for
quite.
School Bride if ever we go to K Park, because maybe people will start buying his song or something, and maybe we'll make him a few quid because he's like.
I get him on the iTunes charts or whatever.
Imagine Football Manager turns viral singer-songwriter 10 years later. Anyway, we digress from the football to cover off the last game of the Lowland League, and Stirling Uni lost 2-1 to Rangers B. Seems like Stirling Uni were close, certainly to getting a point. Rangers B, great side as always, just trying to do their best to keep pace. BK.
Yeah, I think Stirling Uni kept them quiet for a long period. Certainly from what I heard from Chris's interview, Chris Geddes.
No hat, should add.
No, I don't know what's happened to. I reckon he's sent.
Maybe he has to get the hat. Maybe he has to get the hat back on. That might help.
Aye, but yeah, he certainly felt that Stirling Uni deserved a draw out of that game, which by the timeline, obviously, I thought that's what it was going to be. But obviously Rangers B managed to get the win. But we know how good Rangers B are, as you've mentioned before, Ben. You've kind of stated that they're, one of the Colts teams. Not saying which one, but Rangers B.
Just to be clear, right? Just to be clear, I know you chinned me during the week about this, right, Chris? But still, I don't like Rangers. I mean, that's I know you're trying to make out there's some sort of like being too positive about Rangers because they won during the week against PSV, but we still. Someone
dobbed you in. One of your mates dobbed you in as a Celtic fan.
No, that's just something I wind up. That's something I grew up with when I was a wee guy, and he knows I'm a Kelly fan deep down, and he would always be wearing Kelly strips. No, I've never owned a Rangers top of my life. Don't believe any madness or any part about Celtic, man. That's definitely not in my lifetime for sure. It's but talking about Rangers B, great win, still up there. As always, and I think they will. I think, as I mentioned earlier on, we keep saying this, but I think they're just going to be a 2-horse race, and it might just come down to those matches between East Kilbride and Rangers B. Obviously, Rangers B won the first one. Who knows what happens in the second one? But certainly they could be critical for a team winning the league, because I think both teams are doing really well across the other matches they're playing. I don't see where they really drop many points across the season.
Well, Ben's one of these guys. You just want to watch the world burn. You just want a Colts team to finish first, so it causes all the issues in the SPFL. And
what are you trying to say, Chris?
That's just telling it like it is, just so there can be legal challenges. And they've never really finished first. So
I'm just calling it now. I said in the group chat, as I said, we've got a wee group chat. The three of us, still with Moss involved, and I said the other day, I said if Rangers B win the league, there'll be some mad lawsuit that appears that says
quite possible
the champion club pattern isn't acceptable, and therefore we shouldn't get relegated, depending on what team finishes in Club 42 spots. So
I think they have to agree with it. I think they actually have to agree with it
at the start. Is it like perhaps part of?
But I'm not. But that's at the start.
Part of the constitutional rules, is it?
We'll have to wait and see, because it could just be all at the start, and then was it Brecon City? I mean, they still challenged it legally because obviously COVID, so there could be a possibility.
Maybe the teams haven't read the rules properly and haven't realised that thing, because that seems quite rife just now in the west of Scotland, where teams haven't realised what they agreed to at the start of the season. That's not a solid dig at many west of Scotland teams who are pissing their chips now about being punished for definitely rules. It definitely was, because I'm sick of reading about it online. But
was it three teams? 3 teams or something that have played?
That was maybe just yesterday, Chris. I think there seems to be one a day now getting announced. Teams have inadvertently played played ineligible players within the different competitions that have been happening. But ultimately, it comes down to, as I said, those teams have agreed to that in the first place.
It's all the Buffs' fault.
I mean, apparently the Buffs and Rutherglen run the West of Scotland Football League. That's what you hear. But anyway, people and their mad conspiracies. It's funny. Right, moving on then. We'll go on to the Scottish Cup. We'll run through the results just quickly. Auchinleck beat Coldstream 7-0. Broxbourne Athletic beat Blackburn United 3-0. Blunt Island Shipyard lost 5-1 to Lothian Thistle Hutchison Vale. Carnoustie Panmure and Hoyk Royal Albert drew 1 each and they'll have a replay next week. Clydebank beat Bonnet and Thistle 4-1. Dalkeith Thistle lost 3-1 to Lochie United. Drumchapel beat East House's Lily 3-0. Dundonald Bluebell won 3-1 against Tayport. Benburb beat Fort William 4-0 away up at Clegget Park. Glasgow Uni beat Golspie Sutherland 2-0. Haddington Athletic lost 3-1 to Darvel. Evergordon lost 5-1 to Newton Grange Start. Meadow and Hillabeath Hawthorn drew 1 each. Linlithgow Rose beat St Cuthbert's Wanderers 9-0. Pentecook lost 1-0 to Musselburgh Athletic. Paulo beat Girvan 6-0. Preston Athletic lost 1-0 to Newton Stewart. Rutherglen drew with Conan Rangers 2 each, unfortunately. Socky Juniors won 4-2 against St Andrews United. St Genta beat 3 Rovers 1-0 on Friday night. Vale of Even lost 2-0 to Dunbar United. Whitehill Welfare lost 4-1 to Camelon Juniors. Dinny Pace beat Wigtown Bladnoch 12-0.
Just an ing for David Grant in that one. It's not close to the record though. I think the record for an individual player in a Scottish Cup round is 13. So I was saying it. Yeah, he was saying that one of the boys at Dinny Pace was like, "Oh, you played well, son," sort of thing. But Connor Langton was the man of the match after he just scored 9. Well, that was brilliant.
So that's the results across the board, I guess. We always look for kind of cup shocks, if you like, Chris. There wasn't, I wouldn't say many surprises, certainly. When you look at the West teams versus East or North or South, the West teams have all, by the looks of it, managed to get the results across the board, and there doesn't seem too many surprises there. I think we've all said that the West is probably a far stronger league. West is best and all that, as far as I'm concerned. It's a West punter, but yeah, I mean some great results. I mean nothing too shocking.
I think we've got to congratulate obviously Mark Adams, the former Stirling Uni assistant manager, for getting his first Scottish Cup win as head coach of Glasgow Uni. I think that's a really good result.
Yeah.
I don't know how strong Gospels Sutherland are. Obviously, they're not really a team we cover, so I don't know how strong they are. But yeah, it seems to be coming together for Glasgow Uni. Obviously, Mark Adams knows the levels really well. Wish him all the best in the west of Scotland. So, yeah, really good. I did hear David Churchill's goal for Broxburn was an absolute peach as well. So I like highlighting Church's stuff. But yeah, David Grant and Ningo head start really. I don't know.
Does the prelim round count?
I'm assuming it does. Maybe not. Maybe not. We'd have to.
I mean, that'll be hard to beat if it does.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe scores a couple more if he gets they get a nice draw on Monday. Who knows?
The problem is the Scottish Cup format seems to change every bloody year. You know, it's like, this round will go to a replay, then it's the first, second, and third won't, and then it's just a So I would have to check that.
So there was a vote. There was a vote for the rounds, so they dropped the replays in the last vote. So it's only the prelim for some reason, which quite
not ideal.
However, quite frankly, for the Buffs, probably very fortunate. To be quite honest.
Do you want to talk about that? Are you brushing that one over?
Tell what I talk about it. I think, yeah. I mean, obviously, Rutherglen to Cowan Rangers to everyone knows my team is Cowan and Rangers, and it's also a great day for the club and for both clubs. Certainly, I think the first Scottish Cup ties for both teams is licensed clubs, and don't get me wrong, I think when the draw came out, with both teams have been probably a bit disappointed to get that draw. You'd probably preferred a team you wouldn't normally play, and for us, I think we started the game well. We'd Kev Nichol out through suspension, obviously with the stuff that had been on before. Like, we get served a notice.
So he was actually suspended.
So we get served a notice of complaint by the SFA 2 weeks ago. So due the next game that basically we accepted a 1 game ban for Kev because he sat out the one game against Troon. So we accepted a 1-game ban as a club to have Kev missed 1 game, and certainly for me, I feel like we probably miss him. I think defensively, I think he makes our team much better defensively. He's an organiser. He sits in front of the back four and defends well, and probably helps the back four through the game because we probably get quite an experienced back four that's chopping and changing quite a bit as far as I'm concerned. And ultimately for us, we started the game really well, and I think we scored within inside 20 minutes. And I'm saying to myself here, we're looking really good. I think we could go and put 4-5 past this lot today because the way we started, and then we just dropped off at the game, and it just seemed like we went in at half time 1-0. And you know, at that point when the game goes in 1-0, you're like, this could go either way. And then still in the game 1-0, we still haven't managed to put the ball in the net with one chopped offside for some sort of goalkeeper interference, which I wasn't really too sure about at the time, but watching it back, it probably was offside, unfortunately for us. And at 1-0, you're still worried and nervous about the whole match, and Rutherglen get the goal to equalise, and it just comes from the same pitch we've got beat from so far this season against Troon, against Darvel. It's a long diagonal ball that the defence just can't deal with. I mean, teams. I'm saying this like as if it might help teams, but teams will know this now about our team that we seem to can't defend that long diag, and it's common knowledge as far as we're concerned. And the team know it, the players know it, the management know it, and we just need to try and rectify that, because that was what we lost the goal from. And the heads drop, and then there's lack of concentration for the next goal. And then at that point, they're 2-1 up, and I'm genuinely at the point saying to myself, we're out of this. We have went to the preliminary round at Scottish Cup, and we are out. I got to, I think, 85 minutes, and I actually had enough. I just was like, this is shit. Like, I started checking scores in the Premiership, and I had a coupon. Me and a few of the boys put a coupon on for some of the league teams, the League 2 teams and League 1 teams, and stuff like that. And we knew with Montrose, Partick, and Dumbarton, I think it was, and the coupon, they were like, well, more focused on that at that point. I had a GoPro behind the goal, and I went, right, I'm going to go and get my GoPro because I've had enough. And I stood and watched the last 5 minutes of the game kind of behind the nets almost, because I was just bored. And luckily for us, Big Mark Miller steps up with a free kick, bangs one in past the goalie. And unfortunately for Rutherglen, it's so late in the game that it's 2 each, and we then try and push on to try and get the third, and there's not enough time left in the game ultimately. We go to a replay, and we back to Buffs Park on Saturday. We're meant to be playing Hurlford away, so back at Buffs Park now on Saturday with a 2 o'clock kickoff for the Old Firm game kicking off at 12:30. So that's going to be an absolute barrel of laughs in terms of how low will the crowd be that day at Buffs Park, given the Old Firm game's on. So
yeah. What is it, Ben? Is it just I take it? Is it just ball watching, or usually if you kind of concede to the diagonal, it's usually either the fact that there's players ball watching or the defence is really static. So what is it? Is it a mixture of both, or?
I feel it's probably a mixture of both. I think it's just that just not the concentration level dips, and the ball comes in, and either a player's on the wrong side, and they just they don't deal with it. You know, it just doesn't. It's not dealt with properly, and but as I say, we know about it because it's happening to us week in, week out. It's the same play. It's like almost like, I mean, some teams can play set up like as if it's a secret weapon, but it's not. I mean, that's just how we lose goals. It doesn't matter who's playing in defence as well. I think you look at the defence, and it doesn't matter who's in the defence that week. It's different players have played centre half for 2 or 3 weeks now, and we're losing the same bloody thing that happens week in, week out. So it's up to the management. The management know it. They'll need to rectify it, try and get it sorted out. But I think the main thing for us is we're still in the draw, fundamentally. The draw's on Monday. We're still in the draw. We've got another gate, However, they say the Old Firm game's probably going to affect that quite significantly, I would imagine, in a town like Kilwinning. Let's not be beat about the bush. There'll be a lot of interest in that Old Firm match. And who knows if people obviously start at 12:30, will people pile out of pubs to come and watch the Old Firm, watch the Buffs? Probably not, I'd imagine, being honest. So Unfortunately, I don't think you can't even move the game because the way the rules, I think the Scottish Cup rules are quite strict, and you all agree the fixture sort of thing beforehand before you play it. So there won't be an opportunity there to change the result or to change the date of the game to a Friday or anything like that for us. I don't think certainly.
Yeah, so, there's certain fixtures that, like, I think most, even me, I'm talking about the Old Firm game next week.
Yeah,
and the possibility of not going to games because I'm watching that. So, and obviously Tottenham usually come first. I think we're mostly on Sundays when the Champions League starts. So that shouldn't affect too much, to be honest. But yeah, there's just certain teams, and I like watching obviously my team. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think. I might be wrong, but I'm sure I read that Rangers and Celtic are playing. The B teams are playing each other next Saturday as well. So
really?
I don't know how that's going to work in terms of their attendances. I'm assuming maybe it's just the mums and dads that are going to be turning up for that. It's a weird one.
It's that thing into the casual kind of football fans will be interested in it. The kind of casual Rangers and Celtic fans who turn up. Well, let's be honest, and that's not meant to be a disparaging comment, but the kind of the one game a season fans that turn up for the Old Firm games. That's common within probably most big clubs, and the Old Firm's that kind of game. And say Sunday at 12:30, so Saturday at 12:30. So there's nothing we can do about it. We are meant to be going to Hurlford anyway on Saturday. So from my perspective, I couldn't give a shit about it because like Buffs come first for me as far as I'm concerned. So
I think that's why people get confused with the fact that obviously I do support Rangers, but I don't really talk up it as much because before I was involved in non-league, I'd be going to Ibrox most weeks and I'd be going to games, but now I don't. It's kind of like, it's not the same with Spurs because with Spurs, you know, I wasn't travelling down to London every fucking week or whatever, whereas when I was going to the Rangers games, it was a wee bit different. Now it's kind of like, yeah, it's different when you don't go to games. But yeah, certainly I feel like that, like, you know, one game a season fan or whatever, probably go to. But it's what we do though. We're both into non-league.
You're still going to be a fan either way, and I think you hear about things. I remember when I was going to Kelly games quite regularly, you'd always hear about kind of Uber fans, the ones that go to home and away, and I was one of those at one time. But for one reason or another, I don't go to Kelly games anymore. And I'm still a Kelly fan as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's still my team. And if you ask me who I support, I say Kelly. But I have an affinity to the Cohen Rangers because it's my local team, my community club, I'm involved in as well. And you know the players, you know the management, you know the committee, you know the fans, and you're part of it. Whereas I don't think I'd be a Cohen Rangers fan, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I wouldn't go and watch Cohen Rangers play on a Saturday if I was
not involved.
I would go and watch Kilmarnock because that was my team. But and there's folk that come to our games are Cohen Rangers fans, and if you ask them who they support, it's Cohen Rangers. Like, and that's fine, and it's great to have those people. But yeah,
I don't think I could be a fan and be involved in a club if that makes sense. Because I'd probably, I'd probably be too hard. I'd probably be too mental and too harsh, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not
following it. Yeah, you know.
I mean, yesterday, I'll be honest, I lost the plot at one point when we lost a goal, and that's for the first time that I've really felt it because I knew what was at stake, and I kind of knew I know what work went on behind the scenes to get that SFA licence, and obviously the Scottish Cup is something that's the fruits of that labour as far as we're concerned as a club that you get to play, and there's obviously financial reward and the prestige of the competition and all that kind of stuff. So it was hard to take for me. I mean, and that's how I say I did lose the plot ultimately when the second goal goes in. But as if you weren't passionate about it, then I think you're in the wrong place. But yeah, as I say, we move on. We play Saturday, and hopefully the boys will get the job done. We'll find out Monday who awaits either side in the tie in the next round.
Open goal.
Hopefully, I said this to you guys last night in the chat. I was like, I would love to get open goal not purely, but partly because of obviously my friendship with Moza and his involvement at Broomhill, and I always want to draw my mates. I think I've made a few mates in different clubs across the leagues in the last few years, whether that's in the West of Scotland or League 2 and League 1 and etc. So certainly would like to would like to play those teams at some point because I have that wee connection with certain individuals. So I think for me, in the next round, obviously the Lowland League and Highland League teams come into the draw. Would I love to get open goal? I've not really asked where, if it's Broadwood or it's Buffs Park. Not really fussed. Would love to play them because I think there's obviously we talk about it a lot. There's obviously a lot of attraction and a bit of show around that whole thing, and because of the podcast and the people involved, and it would be interesting to see how we pitch up against them and play against them. Obviously, as well, David Gormley's our manager, and he was the former Broomhill manager too, so we'll add a bit of spice to that because he was also papped out that job, and he knew he was getting papped out probably like February or something like that because the open goal thing was happening. And yeah, it would be interesting, and I think it'd be a great day out as well for the fans, and I'd get to meet Mozza for the first time. I've not obviously met either of you guys properly in the flesh.
That's right, yeah.
If we maybe had a game, we could have a catch-up day out, and we can maybe get a wee three-man commentary team on Moz's highlights and do a wee bit or something on there. It would be a good laugh. And yeah, but need to win the game first, though, obviously, on Saturday. Elsewhere in the Scottish Cup, then I think the one result that stands out for me: Drumchapel beating East House's Lily 3-0. Drumchapel winning the plate shield thing that gets them entered to the Scottish Cup through the winning the Strathclyde Demolition Cup within the West of Scotland. So great to see a West Scotland team move through to the next round and basically beating an East of Scotland side. So good result for them. Another result then I think probably stands out for me. And a wee trip for Benburg going up to Fort William, winning 4-0. Obviously, Fort William had a bit of their troubles to seat, but Benburg got up there, getting a day out up to Fort William. I would not have fancied that trip personally, but although I'd have been booking into like some sort of spa or something like that, probably for the weekend if I was going to Fort William, because I have no chance without doing the drive up and back down the same day. So fair play to them. 4-0 win looks pretty good. And then Darvel beating Haddington. I think Darvel went down 1-0 in the first half and showed their class in the end to get the result. I think Haddington went down to 10 men, but another team in the draw. So brilliant for the West teams to get in the hat. And there's only a few, maybe 2 replays. Is it only us? So 3 replays in total happening next Saturday. Kilnistry Panmure versus Hoyt Royal Albert, Overmeadow versus Hillabeath Hawthorns, and Rutherglen versus Colwinning Rangers.
And there was a walkover as well.
Tower Hearts. This is a weird one actually. Tower Hearts versus Cumnock. Cumnock got the walkover buy into the next round because Tower Hearts couldn't raise a team and pulled out the competition, which I found very strange. I think from what I hear, I think Tower Hearts, they're an amateur side who won the Amateur Cup during last season certainly, and for whatever reason some of the players have left, presumably because people found out they were good players because they managed to win a Scottish Amateur Cup and there'd probably be better opportunities to play in different teams, and for whatever reason they couldn't raise a team to play on Saturday in the Scottish Cup, which I find really strange given the prestige of the Scottish Cup and the chance to say, oh, I played in the Scottish Cup. I mean, we were joking around and saying, you should put an advert saying 200 quid gets you a place in the side to play Cumnock. I mean, you would probably get pumped about 20 now, but like you could tell the grandkids one day, oh, I played the Scottish Cup. Like that's the kind of stuff. But yeah,
taking shots at Jamie Barkley, eh?
That's it. I mean, if you get a shot near him, maybe, but certainly from a Cumnock's perspective, they'll be delighted just to get through. And yeah, certainly poor for Tower Hearts, but I don't know if they still get the money, because you get money for exiting the preliminary round from it. Yeah. So I wonder if they'll still get the dough, which maybe can help them a bit and see what they can do. But moving on then, we'll move on to quickly just run through the Junior Cup briefly. There was a bloody million games, I think, on the Junior Cup on Saturday. Rossvale and Muircup drew 0-0. Rossvale, so they won on penalties, 5-4. Aberdeen East End 5, Lanark United 2. Arddeer and Johnston Bar drew 1 each, and Arddeer won on penalties. Atherley beat Harthill Royal 10-1. Bankside D Juniors lost 4-1 to Newmains United. Stonehaven beat Gowrie 6-0. Mabel beat Brecon Victoria 5-0. Buckhaven Hearts lost 3-0 to Ashfield. Culluke and Ellen United drew 1 each, and Ellen United won 4-2 in penalties. Colony Park Juniors lost 4-3 to Bellshill Athletic. Cooper Angus lost 8-0 to Beath. Lags and Craigmark drew 2 each, and Craigmark won 4-3 in penalties. Shotsborne Accord beat Cumbernauld United 2-0. Maryhill beat Dufftown 3-0. Dundee Downfield won 3-2 against Dice. Dundee East Craigie won 2-1 against Cambuslang Rangers. Dundee North End won 1-0 against Devon Side. Dundee St James lost 5-0 to St Ants. Coulter won 4-1 against Dundee Violet. Kilsyth Rangers won 4-1 against Forfar West End. Forest beat Aberdeen Uni 4-1. Glasgow Perthshire won 6-1 against Cruden Bay. Glasgow United lost 3-0 to Blantyre Victoria. Glenafton beat East Kilbride Thistle 8-1. Greenock Juniors won 7-2 against Salkers Victoria. Irvine Vicks drew 2 each with Fraserburgh United, but it doesn't tell me here who was that won the extra time of penalties. Dalry beat Islavale. Don't know. I'm going to go with that. Islavale FC 4-1. Kirriemuir lost 4-2 to Bray Athletic. Les Mahago lost 2-1 to Hermes. Letham drew 1 each with Burhead. Burhead, maybe? Fuck, these pronunciations are terrible.
These Highland-ish.
Aye. Letham won 3-1 on penalties. Livy and Yoker drew 1 each, and Livy United won 3-2. Lockheed Hart lost 1-0 to Newmarket United. If I've got these pronunciations wrong, I'm sorry. Longsuff. How many games is there? Jeez, this is the last page, I think. Longside lost 3-1 to Stonyburn FC. Lossiemouth United lost 6-0 to Arbroath Victoria. Luga Bothwell won 3-2 against Forfar United. Montrose Rosalie won 3-2 against Maud. Petershill won 4-0 against Nairns and Indians. Rothay Rovers won 4-2 against Armadale Thistle. Royal Albert got beat off 4-1 off West Calder United. Scone Thistle won 5-2 against New Elgin. Troon beat Ardrossan Winton Rovers 4-1. Vale Clyde drew 2 each with Gartcairn, and Gartcairn won 5-3 in penalties. Vale Leven lost 4-2 to Bankery St Ternan, and Wishaw won 2-1 against Bridge of Dawn Thistle. There we go. That's your Scottish Junior Cup classified results. I'm going to take a breath, I think, yeah. I mean, some interesting results. I think the one that stands out for me there the most is Dundee East Craigie winning 2-1 against Cambuslang Rangers.
I had that on a treble. I had East Craigie beating them. Yeah, East Craigie are doing really well in the Midlands League. I did have that in a treble. Unfortunately,
very good.
I can't remember who let me down. There was someone that let me down, and it wasn't in the Junior Cup. It was in some other one. So always one team letting me down on the bets, like even with a treble. But that was some call, by the way, because East giving myself a bit of credit there. But I did see East Craigie were doing really well in the Midlands League. So I did think, I do fancy that, and they weren't favourites. Obviously, Cambuslang were still the favourites, but there was a few decent results there. Troon, I don't know if you saw the aftermath of. I think the funny part of Troon was obviously Ben Black got the man of the match, and there's a video of him posted by Dean Matthew. He's basically got a candle holder, and I think he's probably had a wee bit much to drink, and he's kind of playing it like a saxophone. So the beauty of the cup, obviously, St Anthony's as well.
Yes, the
Felix
chairman,
Kidd, the buck
president
on
was
the
having
bus.
a bit of bucky on the bus back home. I feel a good time. Long bus journey back for St Anne's, so I'll probably be too posh. If we ever get a draw in the cup where it's a fair distance, I'm definitely going to be staying in a hotel that night. There's no long bus journey back for me. I'll tell you that just now. I mean, I'm absolutely staying in a hotel nearby and then driving home the next day.
You know,
why not? Why not make a weekend of it?
Oh yeah, nah, you have to. I've been mainly with Kelty. I've been on a few bus journeys, obviously after a game, and there's been a few. I don't know, bucket like the stop of the shop basically before the drive home, and all that sort of thing. But that's what it's all about. These cup games, isn't it? It's really good to see that. Obviously, the Ants with Kenna was fantastic. I was laughing at that for about at least 10 minutes or something because it was, they were really encouraging of me.
I hadn't seen it until you told me about it. It was quite funny, but I have to say that the guy who was feeding the Buckfast had great hair. I must admit, I must shout. I don't know who that was, but his hair was tremendous.
He's one of the players, I think, because they had a picture of him like almost leaning into one of the other players earlier, and it's like how they look each other or something like that. It was a bit.
It was phenomenal. Like I can only aspire to feel like that. I must admit. Elsewhere, I think results-wise, Shotts beating Cumbernauld United 2-0 is a quite a good result for Shotts, given Cumbernauld won the Premier League last year. Shotts are a good side, but Cumbernauld have probably fancied themselves in that game. Apart from that, there probably wasn't a great deal of surprises. Rossvale, I was going to say Rossvale, but not actually, because the whole Rossvale thing's confusing, isn't it? Because you've got Rossvale now
Academy,
and Rossvale Academy, which it's like the kind of BSC thing that happened. It's the same kind of thing that's going on with them in terms of it's two Rossvale teams and there's another one started up in the bottom tier of the West of Scotland and all that kind of stuff. And
they've got, was it 10 months or something to change their name?
The badge or something. It's all confusing. But yeah, I mean, some big results. Beath beating Cooper Angus 8-0, Atherley beating Harhill 10-0. Glenafton beating East Kilbride Thistle 8-1. You know,
that's a good result on paper because we've talked up EK Thistle. I think they've got a decent team, but I
don't think they've started as well as you probably maybe would have expected. I think, as you said, on paper they've got a good side, but in terms of like in the league, they've not been brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, some obviously there'll be new another draw that the Junior Cup. I think took place before the round. I don't really know why, but I couldn't understand it myself why the draw took place like on Thursday or Friday instead of happening after the cup. But
was it like two rounds ahead or whatever?
But it was like done though. So like they done the draw for like these matches like weeks and weeks ago, and then they drew the matches after.
All right, okay, that is a bit strange. Rather than doing it like doubled up.
Sometimes you do it. You draw the first round and the second round. That's fine. That's common. But I don't know what happened, and you could have waited till today or tomorrow or something like that to do the draw once you know all the teams, rather than doing all this team might play that team and all that kind of stuff. But here, I don't run the juniors. I have no involvement in the juniors, so this is as much respect I give to the juniors all year by reading out all those results.
There'll still be teams to play as well because Darvel were back in it and they were playing in the Scottish Cup, so I'm assuming they'll.
Oh yeah, true. And there'll be a few of the West teams probably and East
Talbot,
teams who are in who are involved. That's right. That's probably a good point as well. So we'll see what happens there. But that probably concludes another episode of the official catch up. Where do we find everyone, Chris? If you've got to the end of the podcast and you don't know where to find us,
as usual, official catch up on Twitter, Lowland League catch up on Facebook, and pretty much everywhere. If you just type in Lowland League podcast or East of Scotland podcast, even West of Scotland podcast or South of Scotland podcast on Google, we are the first one because we're the best. Really, let's call it as we see it.
The SEO is optimised here right now. Google's Chris has cracked the algorithm. We're top of the table. Love to see it. So that's all we need to know, isn't it? Really, if you want to Google, just go Google. Just Google West of Scotland. Just do that. Google West of Scotland podcast, and we'll be at the top. That's all we need. Really, let's just do that instead. That's a much better way to find us. All seasons, Chris obviously has mentioned the good places to find us. We obviously appreciate follows and likes and retweets and subscriptions and all the good stuff.
You know, it's funny. After you mentioned the likes and subs, we actually probably got more likes on YouTube than we've had in ages, and I think that's probably because of what you said last week. So
it pays to say it. So we're saying it again this week. So if you haven't liked or subscribed, it doesn't cost you anything. That's the other thing to think about. It doesn't cost you a penny to hit like or subscribe or retweet. Maybe one day we'll bring a Patreon in, and you maybe not have to pay, but you might be able to pay a few quid to support us. But on that point, if you do want to sponsor us, then hit us up, get in touch. We're always looking for sponsors of this. Adidas jackets would be class. Yeah, it's coming into winter. To be fair, I don't think I got my new. Did I send you a picture of my new Buffs gear?
I saw it on Twitter, I think.
Aye, so we've got kitted out the team in tracksuits and
Who does Adidas? I might have to just look into that myself.
Ask Darvo. Because
Darvo.
Darvo have Adidas, so maybe if Mick's listening, we could cut a bit with Black Rooster on our tops or something like that.
Aye,
You
cool.
could sort us out with some Adidas gear if he fancies
Sweet,
it.
I'll sweet talk him, Mick. We've been nice to you lately, so
We've said Ben hasn't said anything bad about Darvo in about a month, so
it's a good
how
show.
about it? A couple of jackets will be class. Nah, I mean, in all seriousness, if you do want to sponsor the podcast, we're amenable to talks of sponsorship as outside the other week. I mean, I'd quite happy to take some free shit at this point in time. Not actual shit, but like free stuff. Whatever you've got in offer. KSI and Logan Paul, if you want to just advertise Prime, then hit me up. I mean, let's talk dollar bills and we can do it. I'm sure there's a big market for it here in the non-league football podcast. I'm just having a laugh about that, but because last week we ended up talking about boxing. I just mentioned KSI.
Oh yeah, was that yesterday? I'm not interested in fucking fake boxing. Tell you what though, who is it? I can't remember if it's Logan or the other Paul, but one of them is actually a really good boxer. I can't remember.
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul's a really good boxer. We bit of respect for him because I have seen a couple
so is
of his
KSI.
fights.
So I mean, I'm digressing again in the boxing podcast, but I did watch a bit of that KSI Pineda fight last night.
Who won?
Lewis Pineda's meant to be a professional cruiserweight or something like that. But I mean, I think you'd have gave KSI a better fight. Just to be honest, I don't know how he is a professional boxer because KSI absolutely mauled him. All he did was moan and complain about being hit in the back of the head when he wasn't being hit in the back of the head, and it was like he wasn't. You could tell straight away he didn't want to be in that fight. So I think KSI fought another boy before it, like a YouTuber or a rapper or something like that before that fight, and then fought this guy. But I didn't watch the first fight, but a lot of folk were saying the other guy gave a better fight than the guy who's meant to be the professional boxer. But that's all that mad sideshow boxing shit that we shouldn't talk about. Let's just stick to the
all money making. By the way, just a short note. I know we're obviously digressing into boxing again, but that is literally what Mike Tyson used to do. Mike Tyson aimed for the back of the head. Like he said it loads of times. He literally would do that in fights. He would be aiming for the back of the head because that's how much of an animal and how insane he would get in terms of these fights. He would literally aim for the back of the head because I mean that is a bit severe when you think about it. Like that probably could. I'm surprised he never killed anyone. But
might need to start a boxing podcast. I was on Twitter during the week talking about wanting to do another podcast, but maybe it's a boxing one we need to do, Chris.
Boxing one,
Do we boxing podcast? The Monday night boxing show. In all seriousness, just a bit of a laugh, and it was probably I brought that up purely because we talked about it last week. It wasn't really meant to be a
thing.
Aye, so we won't. Don't worry if you're listening to this podcast. You've got to the end. Don't expect us to talk about boxing every week because it's not going to happen. Let that be the last bit, unless there's some.
Is Triple G's fighting soon? Is he not? I'm only kidding.
I don't actually know. I mean, I wouldn't actually know. I don't pay enough attention to boxing. I prefer MMA. So I'm just one of these big fight guys. I gotta go watch the big fights, turn up for the big ones. But anyway, thanks for listening or watching the official catch up. We'll be back this time, probably same place. I think we managed to keep a rolling Sunday afternoon podcast recording. The ritual of 1:30 on a Sunday seems to be the time for Chris and I. So we'll be back with another episode of the official catch up. But until then, have a good one. Cheers.